I'm going to be reading some of my thoughts from earlier. Sometimes we incorrectly prioritize education. Some of my American friends who are in their 30s and 40s, they say they wish their parents had set them up in an arranged marriage. The Hindu culture and concepts are very similar to this idea. We have arranged marriages, although it's not practiced to this day, but in ancient India it was practiced. Teaching the Ramayana and Bhagavad Gita teaches you life lessons. Ancient Hinduism taught math and science through stories. America may seem more evolved, but it isn't really evolved to have sex with your first boyfriend when you are 14 and be crying because he dumped you a couple weeks later. It isn't more civilized to go to school and try to get an education and then work a job where you're stuck in a cubicle, which is 1 meter square or a couple feet in size, with artificial lighting and eating takeout and food from the fast food place, and eating fries which are ultra processed and GMO corn, and milk which is ultra filtered. Many of my American friends mentioned that they have been assaulted sexually at parties, and this is about 90%. And then we judge ancient India for having arranged marriages where they married people off at 13 or 14. Now these kids, when they're married off in an arranged marriage at this age, they were not sleeping together, they weren't getting physical. They were just given the term of being married, and they get to live as friends. And then after a couple of years, when they're 18 and 19, they would actually live as a married couple. But until then, they just grow their bond as a friend before they actually end up living like a married couple. Isn't that better? Knowing someone you have someone, knowing someone that you have, knowing that you have somebody for the rest of your life. People always say that we're trying to improve the life of cultures like India, and then they go into India and they go on a mission as a missionary or something and try to change India. But the problem is that isn't that lifestyle more civilized to be able to go farm your own food, to be able to milk your own cow and be able to eat it, drink the milk, to be able to eat the food that you prepare daily, to be able to get berries and vegetables from your own garden? Isn't that more civilized? California is so polluted from smog from our cars, and we don't get to eat fresh food usually. We always have to eat food which is stored and they're brought in by plane or train or truck, whereas in local Indian villages they grow their fresh food. Why are we hating on arranged marriages when American women end up having to go on Tinder? I don't get it. They call ancient India and ancient Hinduism as less evolved, but countries in the West are trying to change India are actually the ones who end up needing to get something to change themselves, because imagine telling Indian children that they're underprivileged for having to get married young. I have friends who know right now that they're in their 40s, that they'll never be able to have children even though that was their dream, because they had to be with 10 different guys who never wanted to commit. Committing is hard, but when you are committed from a younger age, it's not as hard. You have your friends back from a younger age. Friendships are something which they stay stronger. When you're a kid, you can be friends with anyone that you're put in the same room with. I remember playing in the sandpit with some random kid, and that person was my friend. It's a lot more civilized to be able to get married young and be able to live your life with someone and have their back forever than it is to have sex with a different guy every week. In some religions, they say that women must follow exactly what their husband does. But in ancient Hinduism, we have female goddesses who fight wars, who are able to do anything that they want, and who are empowered by their men. Imagine saying that you're like helping people get an education when in fact you're destroying the very root of Hindu culture by saying that learning about math and science is bad. is good, but learning about Hinduism and religion is bad when Hinduism often teaches math and science in the classes. I saw this article and it was an article pushed onto some Indian Times or Indian page by an influencer who was from Switzerland, and she was showing herself doing social justice work in India. She was helping educate the local children and giving them a better life. But was she really giving them a better life? What she thinks is a better life might be going to school, getting an education, and sitting under a fluorescent light for your whole life in a 2-meter square cubicle. But for these children, they have a better life. They don't have to live like that. They get to live in the nature and work with their local animals and do what they want in life and play in the mud. Playing in the mud is a great thing. It helps build your immune system. It makes you feel happy, and it gives you the understanding that things can get dirty and it can get back clean and it can get back better. But saying that she was teaching them education by teaching them how to speak English and teaching them math and science, but ancient Indian culture invented the cataract eye surgery. It invented the number system. And when I did my mechanical engineering degree, I saw that the process of cast iron is the exact same that it was written in ancient Indian textbooks. Organ transplants also have been written in books like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita and in the Vedas. And the first person who did do an organ transplant was a Hindu surgeon, because he had read those Hindu textbooks and learned that there is a possibility to do it. The first person in the modern world who did organ transplant, to say, was a Hindu surgeon. We don't know in the past who it was, but it probably was a Hindu because it says about these surgeries in ancient Hindu texts. So saying that we're going to make other people more evolved and have more education is not necessarily helping these people. It's telling them what you want to tell them and what your idea of evolution is, which is not necessarily the right idea of evolution, because we're pushing the concept of education and then becoming whatever they want in a career, but then they're single at 40 and wishing that they had got married and had a kid earlier because they won't ever be able to do it, or if they do it, they have to do it through IVF or some kind of other medical procedure to be able to get their dream of having a child. And that's really, really sad. It's very sad that we're trying to tell people that their way of living is not the right way and our way of living is the right way. Because, you know what? I have a master's degree and in mechanical engineering, and I grew up in the West. And I'm just thinking, if I had been asked to get married younger, I would probably have thought, no, that's not the right thing. But then looking back now, I don't think it would have been a bad thing. I think I would have had a life partner for the rest of my life who I could have gone through struggles together with, instead of having to do everything alone, trying to figure out my life alone, trying to figure out my career alone. I would have had someone to stand by me the whole time. So I don't think that it's right to say that getting married young is a wrong idea. And I think that's what I like about the Ramayana. It says that Ram and Sita got married and they had an arranged marriage, and we're judging that because apparently every arranged marriage is a bad idea. But, they get to have the life that they want, and that's sweet.